Hello, I'm Neville, and I'm introducing the first topic of human action for world futures. We've called this topic Shaping the 21st Century. Let me explain. We have chosen this as the first topic for a very good reason. It really enables us to press home the idea that this 21st century is a pivotal century. We need to act this century like we have never acted before. It's summed up in some very wise words by James Martin, who was very much a futurologist. He claimed, or he suggested, the 21st century is an extraordinary time, a century of extremes. We can create much grander civilizations, or we could trigger a new dark age. James Martin unfortunately died recently, but he's left us a great legacy. You'll be reading and hearing a lot about him. So in this unit and our accompanying unit, Humanity in the 21st Century, we really have the background view that this is the time when things need to be done. You and us, of course, everyone, need to be active. Okay, now let's think about that for this topic. We will be, in the actual tutorial, considering lots of broad social and global issues. But here I want to just quickly review what's going to be coming up in the rest of the course and set you on the pathway of what we feel is a good way to approach human action. Now I'd like you to consider this slide in some detail. You've seen it before, you've seen elements of it before, but we'll be coming back to it quite often. We regard, or we think, that a very useful way of thinking about human action is through 5 successive steps. Now we all, and all of you here, are probably keen to get out there and be active. And indeed, many of you, I'm sure, are and are very successfully. Action, however, is in a way the easiest part. It's fun, it's emotional, it's hard, but at least you think you're doing something and not just talking. Well, that's true. But often it's too easy to act without pre-thought, to act without planning, to act without doing the real work you need before you really get into action in a big way. So often action can yield either no good results or indeed bad results. We suggest in this unit that we really focus on the preceding steps, starting off with growing your awareness of problems, thinking and understanding those problems in a lot more depth, generating the motivation you need to do something about it, generating the ideas and methods whereby your actions will be effective, and then you can go back into much more powerful action. Now, let's take those steps sort of one by one and consider some of them in a bit more detail. Here, we start with the first one, awareness. Awareness, in a way, is one of the biggest problems of all. So many of us think we know things and we don't. We know our population as a whole is bamboozled, is sidetracked, is subjected to all sorts of misinformation. And not only that, very often the real issues are not even being raised by the press, by the media, by our politicians, whatever. It's our job in this unit to really sit back and think, what are the missing issues that are important? What are the issues that, despite the fact that the public has got bored with them, are still very pressing? What are the issues that if we get stuck into, we can have maximum effect? Let me give you an example. I'm pretty ancient, as you can see. I've seen a lot, and I've seen a lot of problems come and go. I've seen a lot of interests come and go. For example, right now, we're all involved in thinking about global warming. We seem to put that at the top of the list. And yet, those of us who are a little bit older remember very distinctly the days when we didn't even know about global warming, or not really. What we did know is about the nuclear threat, the threat of a total nuclear destruction of the whole world. We were very aware of that. And we knew that if it ever got touched off, if the nuclear bombs ever started to drop, the world would be shattered and we would move into a thing called nuclear winter, a big freeze, not a big heat. Now, we tend to forget that because it's been around for a long while and it hasn't happened. Therefore, we can't ignore it. No, we can't. If someone ever does press that button, we could have a much bigger problem than global warming. Now, we can develop that later, but what I'm just trying to bring out here is that often awareness is very much a fashionable thing. We have to go beyond that to really consider in our own minds a whole set of different issues and how we can coordinate them and think about them. Now, let's imagine we have got a hierarchy of what we think we should know about and what we should be aware about, and ways that we think we might be able to make others aware about things. That alone is not enough. We have to understand the issue very strongly. We have to look beyond what we're told by the newspapers, by the media, by our politicians, and indeed by our lecturers. In fact, perhaps above all, our lecturers. We have to understand it for ourselves. And that's what we'll be encouraging you to do in this unit. We need to be able to define the problem that we think we're looking at. We need to do a lot of information gathering and talking and discussions and brainstorming. We need to be able to recognize that most big problems are very complex and they have many dimensions. We need to be able to integrate the various components and we need to be able to present them in their entirety so that we can understand how we can come up with a good plan for action. That's hard, it's relatively boring, but it's absolutely critical if you're going to act wisely. Now, let's move on to the next step. Motivation and engagement. Well, many of you will be quite passionate about your interests and very motivated and very engaged. A lot of people aren't. We've got to understand how we can motivate others and engage others. What happens so often with big problems, like the boat people, like hunger in the world, like poverty, we seem to think they're so big there's nothing we can do. And to sort of salve our conscience, we often deny the issue. We could deny climate change, or we could ignore it, or we can understand it and be aware of it, but get so depressed that we don't do much about it. Gloom, paralysis. Or, and this is what we want you to be doing or thinking about, let's not just go those negative things. Let's say, hey, we can be motivated, we can be engaged, and we can indeed so do something positive about it. That's our response here. How do you develop the motivation engagement that'll drive you forward and not put you into a screaming mess? Now that's great. Sorry. We often get motivated and engaged, and after a year, we're still motivated and engaged, and after 2 years, we're burnt out and we forget all about it. We just don't want to think about it. No. This course or this unit will also, we hope, help you stay motivated and engage. It'll help you do that by developing support networks. It'll help you do that by learning how to appropriately pace yourself to avoid burnout. And will help you do that by careful long-term planning. Now, the next crucial step is developing the skills and attitudes for effective action. This, if you like, are the toolkits of how you can just not be motivated and engaged, but actually do things which have value. Now, there's a lot of little tricks here, a lot of little ways you can learn, a lot of little toolkits. In the course itself, we try and embed these. For instance, collaboration is crucial to most action. Developing project skills is crucial to most action. Integrative skills, all of these are an intrinsic part of the unit you're doing now. We need to be able to evaluate data. We need to be able to present our data. Presentation skills, again, we do that in this unit. And then we need to be able to learn to work in both small and large group action. All of these, if you like, are methods, but quite crucial if you're going to succeed in your action. Finally, after doing all those things and taking on your area, you're ready for action. And when you go into that action, you really will be, or likely to be, much more successful. And you can act locally, regionally, nationally. We can act as groups of nations. We can act as global citizens. All of these levels of action, we believe, are important, and of course they are. And many of those levels you will be indulging in and following. You may act at a level of local and global at the same time. This is your choice, and this is how you've got to develop your ideas to decide what is the most effective here and now. Okay, so that's just a brief rundown of the sort of steps that we think are useful to apply in most fields of action. During the unit, we'll be picking on some of those and giving them specific issues and specific tasks, and you'll be doing that in your projects. But above all, this unit is attempting to allow you to see how your actions can be indeed effective, and to take the opportunity to take certain pathways to making sure that your lives will, I suppose, yield a very satisfactory way of really shaping world futures. So I'll leave you with those thoughts. In the tutorial, we'll be focusing more on the awareness side of things in this first tutorial, and thinking about awareness of the major problems that we're facing here and now globally. I'll leave you with that. Best wishes for the unit, and see you next time.